7th of July and march to Downing Street. So let's take that message from here today. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to see you all here as well.
Yeah. How are you doing?
It might sound strange to you. It's a Swahili word. The British colonial government knows something about that. It's a cry that came from Kenya when the Africans in Kenya fought against the British colonialism. They had a cry saying "Uhuru," which means freedom. Yes. Uhuru! Uhuru! I can't hear you. Uhuru! Uhuru! And freedom is the most important phenomenon, reality for any human beings on the earth. If you're not free, you're just slaves. And Africa is not free at all. Because Africa is not free, it means all African children are not free. So what happens to every African in the UK or the United States, anywhere else, is directly related to the state of Africa. I just came from another meeting before I got here, where another African has been beaten seriously by the Belgian police. I'm now here outside the US Embassy dealing with the same phenomenon where a young African in the US has been murdered, as you know, by Joe Zimmerman. And I say young African because all black people are Africans. And that's really it's the starting point. Because just like you know, Chinese, they could be in China, they could be in the UK, they could be in the Caribbean, wherever they are Chinese. And the black people also, wherever they are Africans. But it has been the strategy of colonial government to give us many names, so we don't identify each other. Asian, Trinidadians, Senegalese, Nigerians, Black Brits, Afro-Brit, Afro-Swedish, and things like that. So we get confused. So we think, like if you go to the United States, you have Africans, or you go black people, and Haitians. If you ask black people in America, where are the Asian community? They say, oh, they're over there. As if they were different, but they are the same people. So this is the starting point. We're here, of course, to show solidarity and unity with the family of Trayvon Martin, but we're here also to demand justice. Is that right? Yeah. So we're going to say, no justice, 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 no justice. It's our belief that the United States government cannot deliver justice to Africans in the US unless we fight for it. That's just the reality. The history of the United States teaches us that during slavery, for example, and it goes on up to date, if you fight for freedom, you are against the law. Any Africans who try to be free from slavery broke the law. Just think about it. If you fight against freedom, against slavery, you broke the law. That was the law of the United States. And it's still the same today. We have Mumia and other freedom fighters. They are still in jails in the US. This tells us that in the United States, black people are not free. And we say the US is a nation of
enslavers,
of prisons. The United States is a nation of prisons because the black community are a community behind bars. So are the indigenous people of America. You know, white people are not indigenous to Americans. You all know that, don't you? Yeah. So the indigenous people of Americans are in prisons in their own land. So you cannot expect justice to come from a government that have put the indigenous people in jails in their own country. So that's the starting point for us. So we say the US government is a colonial government that cannot give us justice. What happens to Trayvon Martin happens around the world to our children, to our brothers, to the African nation every day. The police gun us down in South Africa. Remember Marikana workers? Yes. That's the same reason those workers in South Africa were gunned down. It's also the same reason Joe Zimmerman gunned down Trayvon Martin. The same reason there are 6 million Trayvon Martin in the Congo. Do you know that?
Yes.
Over 6 million Trayvon Martin have been killed in the Congo. The only difference is they don't call them Trayvon Martin there. They have different names. They might call them Kwame or something like. But they have been gunned down for the same reason. Why? Because the world economy, the economy we're enjoying here, making apples, computers, all that, were born at the expense of Africa and African people. That's how capitalism was born. It was born like that. It was born at the expense of my freedom, your freedom, and freedom of Trayvon Martin. And what George Zimmerman was trying to do is maintain status quo. How do you maintain the status quo? You terrorize black people. You make sure black people are not able to organize. That is the job of the police and the government. Now, some people like Joe Zimmerman decided to take that upon themselves in unity with the U.S. government. What Joe Zimmerman was doing is what also the U.S. government is doing in Afghanistan. The same thing. Terrorize the people, make sure they don't get organized so they can accept their colonial submission. We are not the subject, we are the object. So if you want to be the subject of our own history, then terror comes on us. So terror is our reality. Stop and search in the UK is the same thing as stop and freeze in the United States. That's what we say, all of us. We live here, or we live in the Caribbean, or in Africa, or in the United States. We are all part of the African nation, and the African nation is not free. So all our struggles, including this campaign to get justice for our young brother, Trayvon Martin, is to free the African nation. Because without the freedom of African nation, we continue to be oppressed. Our wealth will continue to be stolen. You know, when I say our wealth will continue to be stolen, you know what I'm talking about? Yep. Africa is the richest continent on earth. Think about it. Africa is so rich that it created human beings. Can you beat that?
Yes.
Can you beat that? Nobody can beat that. That Africa is so rich, so wealthy that it created human beings. Now, you've got all the black people here catching hell. And not only catching hell, then the press, the media, the ruling class say that our children are criminals. When, if you go to Africa, you will see the British boats, the US boat, increasingly the Chinese boat, taking loads and loads of gold or coltan, diamond, timber, you name it, that belongs to you and I. But we are here catching hell. And that's why George Zimmerman killed Trayvon Martin. It might seem distant to you, but that's reality. That's what the struggle is about. No justice.
No peace.
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 We have to let the United States government know that they cannot hide. We charge them of genocide.
Yes.
Because this is what they're responsible for. Not just in the US, in Afghanistan, in Palestine. Wherever you see any oppressed people catching hell, the US government is involved. US government, you cannot hide. We charge you with
Genocide.
US government, you cannot hide. We charge you with
Genocide.
US government, you cannot hide.
We charge you with genocide.
US government, you cannot hide.
We charge you with genocide.
US government, you cannot hide.
We charge you with genocide.
We cannot hear you. We're going to make you real loud so they can hear you. US government, you cannot hide.
We charge you with genocide.
US government, you cannot hide.
We charge you with genocide.
US government, you cannot hide.
We charge you with genocide.
US government, you cannot hide.
We charge you with genocide.
US government, you cannot hide.
We charge you with genocide.
US government, you cannot hide.
We charge you with genocide.
US government, you cannot hide.
We charge you with genocide.
Let's go let them know that the New York Police Department is a terrorist organization. Do you agree with me on that? They have killed in the last 10 years 1,000 Trayvon marchings, 1,000 in the last 10 years. New York Police Department, you cannot hide. We charge you with
Genocide.
New York Police Department, you cannot hide. We charge you with
Genocide.
New York Police Department, you cannot hide. We charge you with
Genocide.
New York Police Department, you cannot hide. We charge you with
Genocide.
You know, it's difficult to call Obama a terrorist because some people say he's handsome, he's articulate, he's the first black president. But when you see a terrorist, you go be able to say he's a terrorist, don't you? You go speak the truth. Would you like your child? No. So Obama is a terrorist. Do you agree with me on that?
Yes.
Obama is a terrorist. Obama.
He's a terrorist.
Obama.
He's a terrorist.
Obama.
He's a terrorist.
Obama.
He's a terrorist.
Obama.
He's a terrorist.
Obama.
He's a terrorist.
Obama.
He's a terrorist.
Obama.
He's a terrorist.
New York Police.
Terrorist.
New York Police.
Terrorist.
New York Police.
Terrorist.
Los Angeles Police.
Terrorist.
Florida Police.
Terrorist.
Florida Police.
Terrorist.
Florida Police.
Terrorist.
FBI.
Terrorist.
FBI.
Terrorist.
Obama.
Terrorist.
Obama.
Terrorist.
It's really important. It's really important that the CIA is terrorist. It's really important that we say that because the reason Obama was put in power because the face of George Bush was identified around the world as the face of a terrorist. Is that right?
Yep.
So the terrorist has to hide. And the best way to hide is to get the face of the slave. Is that right? Yes. So the U.S. ruling class got the face of a slave, Obama.
Yes.
So you can come and say Salam Alaikum and smile. But now all of us can see the U.S. government cannot hide anymore.
Yes.
Black face, white face, or any other face they can borrow, we have to identify the U.S. government as a terrorist organization. You will have to realize, as I'm talking to you right now, over 6 million people have been killed in the Congo because of the U.S. policies to loot the culture and to make apples and computers, things like that. So it's not something we make it up. You have to go in Somalia to see the drones bombing people in Somalia every day. You have to go to Pakistan, go to those places, go to Palestine, go to Afghanistan. You see the hell we're talking about. The United States government is a real terrorist. And the question, we're not fighting to say, okay, the system can be fair. The U.S. government cannot be fair. They assassinated Martin Luther King, who's supposed to be non-violent. We all loved Martin Luther King, but the U.S. government gunned down Martin Luther King. And that's the nature of the U.S. government. Not only they spy on everybody else, they spy on you. You know that? They spy. There is no way you can reform the U.S. government. No justice.
No peace.
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 No justice. No justice. No justice.
No peace.
Justice for Trayvon Martin now. Justice.
The Trayvon Martin.
Justice.
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 Trayvon Martin.
My time is almost up. I just want to say a couple of things before I give the mic to somebody else. The world is in a state of motion and a state of change. Every time you watch TV, you see the people around the world trying to be free. And that's why we're making a call to everyone here to be part of history. Don't be a spectator. Because we can have a lot of marches, a lot of demonstrations, but the reality is that the world needs to be changed with our conscious participation. Everyone here needs a better world, is that right? Everyone wants a world without slave and slave masters, is that right?
That's right.
Everyone here wants a world without oppressor nation and oppressed nations, because that's what the world is now. You have oppressor nations and oppressed nations. We all want a world without bosses and workers, is that right?
That's right.
So we all want to live without labor. But it cannot just happen because you wish it. You have to get organized. Everyone has to be on board. White, black, everybody. But the starting point is that we must eradicate, we must remove what we call parasitic capitalism. I'm not saying capitalism, I'm saying parasitic capitalism. Parasitic capitalism is a system that needs to be overturned. And I hope you will get on the board and that you'll be part of the change of all the people around the world want to see a better world. I just want to thank you for listening to what I have to say, and I'll say hello to everyone. I have a child care duty, so that's how I have to go. Anyone?
No, you gone.
Well, okay.
So,
It's up to
I have a couple of newspapers before I go. If you want the newspaper, it speaks better than I do, and everything I say is not a newspaper. So if you're going to get it for £1, then I can make my way straight to the tube and go do my child care duty.
Yo, big man, give me one.
Hey everyone. That way? Yeah. Great. Yeah, I'm somebody else who doesn't normally speak at these sorts of things, but I thought it was important to add another name to our list of people that we're out here to support and to stand in solidarity with. Also early this week, a woman named Marissa Alexander in Florida has been sentenced to 20 years in prison for firing a warning shot to stave off an attack from her abusive, estranged husband. So the very same stand your ground laws that allows you to identify a threat of bodily harm and defend yourself from it did not apply to a black mother who's now been convicted to 2 decades in prison away from her family. So anyone who tries to give you this rhetoric of, oh, it's not about race because George Zimmerman is of Hispanic descent, and so he couldn't possibly have had a racial motivation for his attack on Trayvon Martin, it is not looking clearly at the situation that we find ourselves in, because racism is all around us. It enters our psyches by osmosis. No one is immune to it. We all get these same messages of black man as demon, black woman as angry and volatile, black people as lazy, blackness as a threat. There's racism within ourselves, among our communities, as well as between races. And so dark skin is not a defense against the racist attempt at separation that comes down to us through capitalist manipulation that wants to divide the working class. So I think that a lot of the speakers have been saying, well, what are we going to do about it? What are we going to do about it? I would suggest that one action starts within each of us, checking our privilege, checking our thoughts, checking how we think about ourselves and our positions in the world, how we think about other people and how we're allowed to move around through the world. And I absolutely agree with the sentiment that black people in the US, and I think to some extent in the UK, and everywhere in the world where capitalism reigns, we're all in a state of imprisonment. We're all limited in our ability to walk down the street without being pursued, to walk into a shop without being assumed that some sort of a crime is going to take place. If we had real, proper due process of law, we would be innocent until proven guilty. But black people in the world are condemned a priori, and then possibly, receive some kind of apology afterwards, if even that. So yes, can we please add justice for Marissa Alexander to our chants and to our demands? To women of color everywhere, we stand in solidarity with them.
Yeah, go on, please, go on. Big man on you.
Okay, so tossing into that, holding that, and the other.
Yes. Are we? Oh, my bad. Well, I just came, but it warms my heart to see people out here of all colors standing against injustice, not just in the United States, but in the world over. But one thing we must say is that this incident with Trayvon man is not an isolated incident. It's not an isolated incident. It's the result of systemic state policy of the United States. Because the fact of the matter is, I don't know how many of you are familiar with it, but the Malcolm X grassroots report confirmed that essentially every 28 hours in the United States, another person of color is killed, either by police or by some white vigilante. And this gets very little coverage in the corporate media. And even in the few times that it gets coverage, the corporate media won't admit that these are not isolated incidents. This is a result of institutional racism and systemic oppression against the black community. And it is against that we stand here today. Now, the fact of the matter is, people who make the rather infuriating excuse that this is just a matter of legality don't understand the true sources of the legal system in the United States. It was founded on white supremacy.
Okay.
That was the point. Zimmerman got away not because the legal system failed, but because the legal system worked.
It's cool. It's cool.
Now, I don't have control over what the Republicans would want to say. I don't have control over what conservative whites would want to say. I don't have control over what our enemies want to say. But as far as our constituents go, I feel that our voice should have control, should have some influence over other people of color and other people who are against the oppressive system, and so, or claim to be against the oppressive system. So I direct my criticism there. In the case of the United States, organizations like the NAACP, the Urban League, the entire Black Caucus, they failed their so-called constituents. They have completely failed to represent them. In fact, they're just power groupies. They're concerned about putting black faces in high places and getting as close to the source of white power as they possibly can. They don't represent us. And they are a disgrace to our community. So even the foolhardy ones that talk about now is the time to have, conversations about how different people view things differently. It's been 500 years of conversation. It's been 500 years of conversation, and still the problem exists. What we need to do is take action. What we need to do, as I said before, is to get organized and to once again assert ourselves into the public space and demand that we are respected as human beings, because that is what the world has taken from us, and this is not just the United States. It is essentially all of US and Western Europe. If your right to life is a human right, and a set of people are denied that right to life, they're denied their right to exist as human beings. The United States is essentially guilty of crimes against humanity against the African American community. Thank you for the correction, actually. Not just essentially African Americans, Native Americans, all indigenous populations of the world are victims of what is really a 500-year war against the world population. What we saw happen to Trayvon was just in a way part of that 500-year war. What continues to happen in the third world, the US militarism is all a part of that 500-year war. It is a war against you and me. It is a war against the entire colored peoples of the world. But furthermore, even a word to the people who might feel that they're privileged in this system. Even the white working class, even the white middle class. Soon the chickens will come home to roost. Because the same government that you allow to perpetrate systemic violence against the African community and against colored peoples around the world generally is now taking away your rights as well. Is now passing acts that limit your freedom of speech. Is now spying on your communications. And for those of you who are outraged, I say welcome to the club.